Today's episode of Strong Links is brought to you by Dan and Van, Sleaford and the surrounding area's #1 man with a van service. And now for today's show.
Welcome to Extra Strong Links, a bonus episode of the Strong Links podcast. We're going to bring you the extended interviews with our brilliant guests. These are the bits we couldn't fit into the main show. I'm Rich, and I'm here with my good friend Dan. Hello, Dan.
Hi, Rich.
So, Dan, what have we got coming up in episode 2 of Extra Strong Links?
Well, Rich, we spoke, or should I say spook, with Tom Warrington, a paranormal investigator. And wow, it's got me rethinking my views on it all. Absolutely fascinating.
It was a great interview. I mean, everything he said was just fascinating, wasn't it? And it was a shame to cut anything out of the main show. But here you'll get to hear the whole thing. Our special guest this month is a local paranormal expert. He's an investigator of ghostly activities, a renowned writer for paranormal publications, and has written his own book on the subject. He's a speaker at international events. He started his own paranormal radio show, and he comes from right here in Sleaford. Welcome, Tom Warrington.
Hooray!
Well, that was a fantastic introduction, I must say. But no, first and foremost, thank you for inviting me onto the show.
Our pleasure.
Thank you very much for joining us here. Our first guest in the studio, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
So, I read your book a couple of years ago, as you know, because I interviewed you for the magazine. Can you tell us a bit about your book, and do you have any more planned?
Sure. Looking for Ghosts, Seeker of Truth was compiled for over about 2 years, gathering research. The idea of the book, first and foremost, was an introductory kind of concept for those that dipping their toe into the paranormal. I didn't want it to be too scientific and in-depth. There was a lot of chapters in there that were very close to my heart with regards to private cases that I conducted over the years. So it was basically a snapshot of where I was within the paranormal field. And I think from what I had from feedback across the globe, and it was doing very well in America, that it was a great piece of work that I did. And not only for those that had expertise in the field, but for those that are beginning their journey into the paranormal. So there's a lot of different chapters, a lot of different spectrums to it. There's a chapter about the alien phenomena and how that ties in with ghostly phenomena, and a lot of different ideologies on the subject matter. But I think for me, Book 2 was always on the cards. I did start it pre-COVID, and it was honed into haunted pubs and inns within the UK. And unfortunately then COVID hit and they put the scuppers on that. So it's definitely going to be reignited, and it's something that I'm sure will be out very soon.
And it's not a bad one to research, really, going around all these pubs.
Exactly. you know, what better way to get a pint and to discuss ghost stories over a roaring fire, and it's always fascinated me, the amount of so-called haunted pubs and inns there are in Great Britain, and the reasonings behind that. And I do have a kind of a theory to that, is because you've got so much going on over the centuries within pubs and inns, different characters over the years, the different energies that have been brought into that scenario, into that specific building. You've got joyous occasions, you've got very sad occasions. So I think for me, that there may be there's something there as to why people experience so much phenomena in places like that, because you've got such a wide spectrum of people over the years and things happening at that location, which
I often think that when I'm in old buildings, the life that's been through those buildings.
Exactly. The pure footfall for me, over the centuries, and we are very lucky in this country to have such a vast history, and it's always, history is a very big poignant fact for me. I'm fascinated by our historic island, and I think there's so much entwined into the paranormal phenomena and history. Yes, we have modern day hauntings, but there's a lot of past life, that's happened and trauma over the years. So, so going back to your question, book 2 is definitely something on the cards that I really need to ignite.
Well, I look forward to that, yeah.
Does your interest in the paranormal stem mainly from Ghostwatch that was on the BBC?
Yeah, I mean, that show for me was, I think, a big turning point for me. But I think my uncle galvanised that further. He gave me a book that was, if you remember, the listeners probably know, Strange But True with Michael Aspel, which was an amazing show, and it covered a lot of all things strange. And I think for me, one of the episodes covered the Enfield poltergeist, which is the most documented cases, I'd say, in the world. You had the Society for Psychical Research spending an abundance of time there in the house. And for the listeners that don't know about the Enfield haunting, this happened in 1977 to a family, a very normal family who lived in Enfield. A very normal semi-detached home. They experienced a plethora of really high magnitude of really strange occurrences, quite violent at times. And there was so many different eyewitnesses, from Lollipop Lady to police officers actually witnessing a chair move 6 foot on its own, unaided. And there is written statements online that you can read about it. To reporters from The Sun who had Lego thrown at them from an invisible force. But Maurice Grosse and Guy Lionel Playfair, who were members of the Society for Psychical Research, spent a huge amount of time and energy with the family. And they documented some fascinating phenomena from fires coming from the wall, from settees turning. That for me really sparked my interest. Why were these things happening? Why to that family? So I was only 10 years old at the time, and my uncle gave me that book, and I was just hooked. I really was hooked. And I spent my time, the internet wasn't there at the time, so I was kind of looking at newspaper articles, cutting pieces out of ghostly phenomena, putting it all together, and trying to look at any trends that I could see, that why it was happening. And I think for me, that started my investigative role for when I went out investigating, was why were these things happening? Can we find any trends within certain phenomena? To kind of a bit of a scientific approach. I'm quite methodical, and of course I'm very skeptical. I'm always looking at the normal angles before I even comprehend the paranormal, and I think science is yet to kind of catch up with this strange phenomena, because there's no doubt in my mind there are strange things that happen and that science cannot yet explain. I'm sure in the future there will be an explanation scientifically, but at the minute there's things that go on and still people do not know who to turn to, and still a bit taboo. I think it's got much better over the years. TV has helped, and I think TV is a double-edged sword because it has helped and hindered, but we'll probably get onto that a little bit later. But yeah.
You say you're a skeptic.
Yeah.
In what way are you a skeptic?
So I do class myself as a skeptical researcher. And I think when you say that in the paranormal field and the paranormal community, it's a bit frowned upon because you're immediately marked as a non-believer. Well, skepticism's not like that. Being skeptical is being open to the idea and methodically looking at the phenomena that's happened and trying to figure out, could it be this, could it be that, and then if you get down to everything, you've ticked all the normal boxes and it's none of that, then you can look at that small percentage of that strange phenomena occurring. And I've experienced stuff myself, and I've actually caught a multitude of different things on private cases that have been sent to universities to be scrutinised, etc. And nobody can answer the question as to what occurred that I caught. So there is a very small percentage out there that there are things that do occur that we are, as human beings, cannot comprehend.
Does it frustrate you, though, that there might be a lot of nonsense around the subject that gives the field of investigation a bad name and detracts from the serious investigation?
100%. And I think it's one of the main catalysts that pulled me away from the field for a long time. TV and social media had a massive impact on the paranormal. And I think more so for the wrong reasons. TV and social media did bring the paranormal to the wider audience, but what it also created is a monster, and that was that fame-hungry person. You know, it was very easy to set up a YouTube channel, to go around supposedly haunted locations. Not necessarily they were wanting to search for the truth, they were wanting the likes, the shares, the followers. And I think that has really overclouded the paranormal, and there's a lot of colleagues that I worked with over the years that sadly had enough of it, because it has clouded it a lot. There's a very minimal amount of serious researchers out there. There are the big groups that are still doing some great work, ASAP, the SPR, the Ghost Club in London, which is the oldest organisation in Europe. They're still paving the way. They're still doing incredible things. They have scientists, philosophers, doctorates that are very interested in the subject, who are all trying to find those reasonings behind it. But unfortunately now there is so much kind of fame-hungry led groups and individuals that are kind of, like you say, retracting from the seriousness of what researchers are actually trying to achieve. So again, going back to what I was saying, it is one of the reasons I did come out from that paranormal realm for a long, long time.
So at the moment we've got Halloween coming up, and it's a time when a lot of us get in tune with supernatural matters.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
Because of the, it harks back to ancient beliefs of, I believe, like the dimensions becoming thinner between worlds.
Yeah.
Did you ever find when you were doing investigations that times of the year like this were conducive to paranormal investigation?
It's a really interesting question. For me, I found there was more of a trend for people to experience phenomena in the daytime. There's a lot more accounts. It's a myth that...
In the daytime?
Yeah.
I thought it always happened at night.
Exactly. And that's because of film. The film concept and the horror scene, everything seems to be happening at night. But from my research and all my private cases, more activity happened during the day. So it is a massive misconception that things that go bump in the night occur. Now, also what this is stemmed from is a lot of public ghost hunts. Obviously, they go to all these kind of ancient castles, inns and hotels. And of course, they can't conduct a public event in the day. So again, it's that kind of interactive scarefest, as I call them. They're a great way, don't get me wrong. There are some amazing groups out there that I still keep in touch with and do some amazing investigations at night. But it is that kind of interactive horror event, isn't it? You're in a supposedly haunted location and at night everything, the senses are going in overload. Everything's done in the dark. It is a bit of a misconception. And I think over the years what I found is that more activity happens in the day. But of course you cannot investigate in the day if you're going to Warwick Castle, But a lot of private cases, families that have come to me and approached me, that they have more of the activity in the daytime. But that's not discounting things that do happen at night, but more of the activity does happen in the daytime.
Makes you wonder, all the ghosts that might be knocking around in the day, and we just assume they're normal people and pass someone by in the street.
Exactly.
Could be a ghost, who knows?
Yeah.
So these days, I understand you're mainly talking on the subject.
That's right.
Yeah, rather than doing investigations. Was that a conscious decision?
Yeah,
to do that?
Yeah, I think coming away from the investigative side of things, obviously I've still got that massive interest. So for me to share publicly what I've found over the years is fantastic, and the amount of stories that people come to me with is so fascinating. I did a talk at Lessingham Village Hall for a lady widows group, and that I blew their mind. I did a talk on the private case in Aby in Lincolnshire, and I actually played the footage. I did dedicate a chapter in the book, The Humming Lady of Aby. And, to get other people's feedback and just to see their faces and how they kind of deal and process that information is really fascinating. But I do enjoy doing the talks. I've done a lot of conventions over the years. And I think
what are the big conventions? What?
So I did the big paranormal convention down south a few years ago, where they had a lot of international ghost hunters from the TV. A lot of Ghost Adventures people were there, and I actually did a radio show as well. We actually won Radio Show of the Year at the awards, which was fantastic because there were so many podcasts and great speakers there.
Everyone's got podcasts these days.
Oh, of course they are. They're fantastic. You can listen on the move, but they're definitely the way forward. But yeah, I'm still doing talks. So I'm still keeping my toe in the water, as it were. But I think for me, talking to people about the subject as well is fascinating. The amount of stories that people have and experiences that people have. And I think, like, I go back to earlier when I said it's still a bit taboo. People are still a bit cautious of telling their story. And I think when I do my talks, it allows the floodgates to open, and they say, oh, finally, someone I can actually sit down and talk to about my experience.
Yeah.
So for me, the talks are great, but the best bit about it is talking to the people and how they've experienced stuff over the years. It's fascinating.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people, just having general conversations with people, and the subject comes up, and people have had experiences. Yeah. It's I don't think it's a coincidence that people are having these experiences, but
no.
It's
I think I'm not to take away anybody's experience. I'm always open to what people have to say. But and I hate people poo-pooing other people's experiences, but at the end of the day, you weren't there.
Yeah.
That person experienced it, and they're opening up to you, So, and I've interviewed thousands of people over the years, and yes, there are some that you think, okay, but the majority are very genuine, and you can tell when you're actually talking to people. And especially when I've done private cases, you generally can see fear in people's eyes when they're sharing their experiences, And that, for me, I'm a very good judge of character, We've been to cases over the years where they just want the publicity. They want money for the publicity. And you can very early on distinguish the reasons behind that. But the majority of investigations I've conducted over the years have been extremely genuine. They really have.
Yeah, you mentioned was it the Humming Lady of Aby?
Yes.
Yeah, that was, I think that's the opening chapter of your book.
Yes.
Isn't it? Firstly, tell us, what's the name of this book so people can Go and check it out.
Yes, so it's Looking for Ghosts, Seeker of Truth, written by myself and edited by my wife, Gemma. Bless her, she had a lot of input on that. It's still available on Amazon, and it's strange. This time of the year, there's an influx of purchases, obviously honed in on the whole Halloween concept. But it's still out there to buy. But yeah, back to the Humming Lady of Aby. That was a phenomenal case we undertook. It was really something special, and something that I caught on camera. There's a lot of people that have seen the footage and listened to it, and every person that comes around my house, I'll put it on and say, put the headphones on and say, tell me what you think to that. Well, they go white. They go white. You know, there's no explanation what I caught and the team caught that day. And I think more important to the fact that we as investigators have a duty to people that, you know, we're there to listen and to help and support every way we can. It's not just a case of crashing in and investigating and leaving the family. You know, we're there to support them as well. And I think that's quite important when you are undertaking these cases, because, you know, mental health's a massive thing, as you know. And, you know, we actually had a lady on the team who was actually a qualified mental health nurse. So she was there to support as well, which is fantastic, you know. But there's a lot of groups and individuals that are there that are literally wanting just to go into a location, record and leave, you know. I mean, that was never something that we did. We were very proud to say that, you know, our support after the investigations was there and beyond, you know, and it was for that family at the time as well. So
Did you know you'd captured something at the time?
Well, we were there collectively as a team for 6 weeks. As investigative terminology, that is quite rare. You know, public events last 8 hours, you know. Yeah. So there's not a lot of time to have a chance to catch anything, as it were. So to have a case where we could really set aside time and different times of the day where different team individuals were there and spent time with the family. There was an extensive amount of recordings that we did, as you can imagine. We had probably up to a number of 14 hard drive camcorders that were rolling 24/7. We had sound recorders.
But was this a family that brought you in? You in to investigate? Yeah,
so we received an email from a family who lived in a cottage in a hamlet called Aby. Not a lot there, and they said we're at our wits' end. Basically, they were all sleeping together in the lounge. It was a family of 4 at the time, and then the first day there was a lot of preliminary investigation before this, so there's a lot of work that goes on prior to us setting foot into that location. You know, there's a lot of things to go through before we think, right, okay, this is the real deal, this is genuine. They surpassed that. The first day, you know, it was very clear to us all that they were frightened. They were really scared. I mean, to see them camped out in the lounge together, they slept together, was a big indication that something wasn't right here. So at the time, to answer your question, no, I didn't know I caught this sound recording at the time. It was upon reviewing. And I'll never forget, I was in the office and I basically set up a static camera in the upstairs playroom, child's playroom upstairs, where they proclaimed to have seen this apparition. And it was an interactive apparition. You know, there was conversations had between the apparition and the children, and not so much the adults or the parents. They just experience a lot of things moving, disappearing, and reappearing, which was frustrating, obviously, and a bit unnerving. But the kids, it seemed to centre a bit around the children, and especially the playroom. So I set up a camera that was facing the only way to gain access. Yes, there was a window. However, this is on the first floor. You'd have to climb up to get through into and it was an old cottage. You had to slide the windows up, so that would just, you would have heard someone enter the room. I actually locked the playroom to lock it off. So I had the key. We went downstairs. We just made a cup of tea. We actually paid for the family to have a day out in Skegness. Just enjoy yourselves. Come away from the house. And they left us there. So we was having a cup of tea and everything. And I heard a slight bang upstairs. And we didn't think anything of it. We left the cameras rolling. So upon review of the footage, I think within an hour and 10 minutes of leaving the camera there, you heard a very distinctive bang within the room. And it was definitely 100% the room. And then what came after, I literally, because I had my headphones on in the office, I literally threw the headphones off because I was literally like, wow. I caught, and it lasted probably about 3 to 4 seconds. And it was a very distinct lady, middle-aged lady, humming. Clear as day. It was a humming. It was
tune? Or?
Yeah, it was. Some people said it was a nursery rhyme, not the one I'm familiar with, but a lot of people who have listened to it was a nursery rhyme. But it was so distinctly clear. It was clear. There was nothing outside. We was downstairs. You couldn't even hear the team downstairs. But it was just so crystal clear. And it's shaking me to this day because there's no way anyone could have entered the room because I had the key and it was locked. There was no way someone would have climbed from the kitchen up into the room to make that sound.
Yeah.
The family weren't there. We were all accounted for. We logged everything meticulously. So minute by minute, we are writing down where everybody is, what they're doing.
Yeah.
And at the time of the capture, I call it the capture, I sound like from Ghostbusters now. The capture of the audio, it was phenomenal. There was no reason for that to have happened. There's no scientific explanation. And it wasn't an old camera, it was a hard drive camera, so there was no tape involved. So some may argue that a tape overlapping the recording, there's a possibility that could seep through. Well, this wasn't a tape recording, this was a hard drive digital camera. So
does it sound eerie, or does it sound
it sounds
everyday?
Literally, yeah, well, it sounded like a lady was in that room humming a nursery rhyme. There's just no other explanation. And for your listeners, I'm happy to send a copy for the listeners to have. I'm not hiding anything. I'm very open to people's feedback. So if they do want to get in contact, I can send that footage.
We'd love to hear.
I'll send it to you guys and for you to give me your thoughts on it.
Yeah,
definitely.
But it's definitely something special. 100%.
Is this something you've published? Is this out there, or?
I've not published it. I think I have, because I do have a Facebook page, Seeker of Truth on Facebook. I think it's on there, but I'm happy to send it on email to those that dare listen to it. And I say dare because it has changed. For those I've got friends and family who are non-believers, completely non-believers. They're not even comprehending there's a possibility of paranormal phenomena. And for them to turn around and go, oh, okay, that is weird. And that is certainly, it's actually changed a lot of my friends and family's perception of life. It's that poignant and that very... It's sort of those sort of scenarios that makes you think, is there something in this, you know? And I'm really proud that I did capture that, because it certainly kind of snowballed into everything else and further research. So
when was this? When did you capture it?
Oh, crikey. We are turning the clock back at least 8 years now.
Okay.
Yeah, 8 years. The family actually... moved
how are
out.
they?
They do not. I still keep in touch with the parents. They're fine. They moved out, not through because of what was happening, but for other reasons. They had to move on. But we did actually contact the new owners who entered the property, but they weren't open for discussion.
Right.
Which we've got to respect that.
Yeah.
So it would be fascinating to know if they are experiencing.
I believe it's something you need to declare when. Is that right? When you sell a house?
That's in America.
Oh, is it? Oh, okay.
yeah. I mean, America. They're big believers in the paranormal, but it's a very religious country.
Yeah. I was actually going to ask you because you said you did conventions where there were lots of international speakers to paranormal investigation. Follow the same kind of rules?
Protocols.
Protocols,
I think that there is a loose kind of investigative kind of points to follow, but everybody's different. Everybody works differently. But for me, I'm quite tangible. I need evidence.
Yeah.
I've got like temperature loggers that map points in the room, so I can see physically on a graph if someone's saying I felt a really cold drop in temperature. I can actually back that up and say, it dropped suddenly 4 or 5 degrees exactly when you said that. But everybody works differently. There's a lot of people that don't use equipment and they just go in and use their own senses, because at the end of the day, and I've always said this, us as human beings, we are an amazing tool to have, our hearing, our senses, etc. So, and I think we've lost that over time as well. If you go back to the caveman times where they were hunting in the dark, they were using their instincts, and I think we still have that as human beings. It's there, but it's been locked away.
Yeah.
100%,
Is that what you'd describe as sort of a sixth sense?
100%, yeah. We've had that back in ancient times, but as technology has gone forward, we've become a bit lazy.
We're not endangered day to day. We're not
exactly. Yeah.
So our sort of senses are.
They've dumbed down. Let's say that.
some more than most.
Yeah, exactly, 100%. Yeah, but it's there's always been a bit of a protocol to follow, but again, there's a lot of different kind of avenues that people can go down when investigating.
Just a quick question: why don't you see cavemen ghosts?
I asked this question years ago. To a very famous medium, and they couldn't really answer it, and it goes to show, why don't we see that kind of that apparition? But I think because apparitions, they must come from some sort of energy purpose. When people proclaim to see an apparition, there must be light, which is energy. Yeah. So if we go back in time, has that energy slowly faded over time? And I think a really good example of this is there's lots of famous haunted castles in the UK. Okay, there's a certain one, Dover Castle, where the same apparition actually changes colour. So it's the same lady apparition, and is that because over time this recording somewhat is slowly fading out?
Oh, okay.
And from the green lady to the red lady, there must be a spectrum there. Yeah. That's science is kind of entwined, that there is a recording pattern there, but over time it does slowly dissipate and fade away.
Okay.
So that's probably why we're not seeing cavemen and women.
Their energy is weakened over time.
It's weakened.
Faded away.
Faded away, yeah.
So going back to your book, you go to a lot of local places around here. One of them is quite famous, became famous nationally, is the Ruskington Horror.
Yes.
It was something that was explored on Richard and Judy back in the day, wasn't it?
Yes.
It got really big.
It did, yeah.
One of the things I was fascinated about in your book, you related that to another nearby landmark, which is Temple Brewer, which is obviously related to the Knights Templar.
Mm-hmm.
And, nearby as well, you've got Bayard's Leap, which,
Yeah.
that whole mythology has the Knights Templar entwined with it.
Mm-hmm.
Do you think that there are these old presences there, or is it possibly a combination of things in the terms of the Ruskington horror on the A15?
I generally think, and I've done several talks on the Ruskington horror, and I believe that it's something to do with the Knights Templar and what's happened there at Temple's Brewer. So at Temple's Brewer, the Knights Templar had one of the largest settlements in Europe. Now, the Knights Templar, of course, were very... They liked researching earth energies. They were very in tuned into this. This kind of mythological concept of this superpower that they could house, etc. I mean, they're famous for, obviously, the Guardians of the Holy Grail, but they were very entwined into the kind of mystical side of things as well. There were a couple of, actually, archaeological digs in the early 1900s, which discovered a lot of... sacrificial burials from the Knights Templar. So they were experimenting. And I think it's not just a coincidence that people experience a lot of different types of phenomena on the A15. I think that area in itself is quite mystical. I did a talk on ley lines, and ley lines are supposedly mystical earth energies. There's a lot of ley lines that cross over, in particular the last remaining tower there actually is on an intersection of ley lines. And there's a very interesting experiment that listeners can do. You can go there for free. It's open quite a lot. If you go to the top level, if you put your compass at the top, a lot of the times the compass will react and spin.
Really?
So there's definitely something mystical going on in that area, and I think that is why a lot of people experience different types of phenomena. Now, whether the energies are interfering with our brains, and it's causing us to see different types of imagery, or there's something more to it than that. But it is a fascinating place, and the more you research Temple Brewer, the more fascinating it gets. I highly recommend you look into Temple Brewer. It's fascinating.
I've been there a few times. I always love going there. And like you say, there isn't a lot left of the original building, but there could be a lot underground.
Oh,
still.
massively. Yeah, huge, yeah. I mean, it was such a massive settlement. They actually...
it was second to the Temple in London, is that right?
Yes, correct. Yeah.
So it was very significant.
It was a massive, poignant place, and then obviously there was a lot of medieval settlements nearby, close to it as well. They did they held a lot of jousting tournaments. It was kind of a showcase piece for the Knights Templar. They owned a massive amount of the land surrounding it. Obviously, they were a very wealthy organisation. But I think for me, they were fascinated by all things kind of strange and mythical. They were very on that, and I think they realised, or they discovered something with energy lines that may still be there. And people to this day come up to me and say, "I experienced this weird thing on the A15. What was it?" I said, well, you're not the only people to experience strange phenomena. From people seeing period horse and carts to apparitions to ghost hitchhikers. The A15 has a plethora of different types of phenomena, which the hot spots that I've mapped are very, very close to the Knights Templars kind of footholding, as it were, in the area. So I definitely think it's no coincidence at all.
Do you think ghostly experiences happen to people when they're kind of not looking for them?
Yeah, and I've always said this, I've been searching for ghosts for a long, long time, 30 plus years. And I've always joked that if I ever did see an apparition, I'll be running the opposite direction. So I'm like the world's worst ghost hunter, And I think you've hit the nail on the head. I think 9 times out of 10, and the people I've spoken to, they're either have never been interested in the paranormal, which I find fascinating, and B, they're not looking for it. It just happens to him at an unexpected time, unexpected scenario. And then again, that in itself raises a lot of questions for people that are really searching for it, don't have that lucrative kind of phenomena to happen to them. So I think, to answer your question, I think if you're interested in experiencing phenomena like that, don't go looking for it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a paradox, really.
The whole
thing.
Yeah.
Now, I think you've probably answered this question already when you were talking about the Humming Lady of Aby. Mm-hmm. Would you say that was the one incident that stands out most of all in your mind of that's happened to you during your investigations, or is there anything else that is a real kind of standout for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's been probably a handful of experiences where I have not been able to explain, and others. There was a really good. We was at the Oak House in West Bromwich, and that I think now is a museum, and it's an old Tudor building. Fascinating place, and it was one of the first actually public events I got kindly invited to, and we actually experienced. We was in a room and was doing a bit of a kind of an old school Victorian séance, red light séance, and there was probably 4 or 5 of us in the room, and we was all talking, and all of a sudden there was this really strong, and I mean strong, like someone had lit a pipe. And it was that really old tobacco smell, that smell that you don't really smell anymore. And it was so poignant. It was there for about 4 or 5 seconds. And then with that, it had gone completely. Like, completely gone. And we all just looked at each other. We didn't even prompt each other. And we all went, literally at the same time, did you smell that? And was like, yeah. And that was really strange. And I've actually experienced that at the Petwood Hotel as well, in Woodall Spa.
Yeah.
I mean, that has strong links, obviously, with the Bomber Command and stuff like that, with World War II. That was a fascinating place as well to investigate. But yeah, there's been numerous accounts. I mean, footsteps are quite common. And things like that. But I think nothing trumps the humming that I caught on that case. Definitely not.
Wow. So Dan and I were getting in the spirit of the spooky season, no pun intended. And we're looking to go on a ghost hunt of our own, somewhere locally for this podcast.
Yeah.
Don't expect big things from it. But are there any good places that you could recommend for us to go to locally?
Well, I think Temple Borough Preceptory, 100%. That for me is a very mystical place. Havering Priory, I dedicated a chapter of that. That's quite fascinating in itself. There is a part of the Priory still there. I was lucky enough to speak to the landowner many moons ago, who actually allowed me to go wandering around the remains of the ruins. People to this day still experience a lot of stuff, especially around the river and on the bridge. And actually my work colleague experienced something quite frightening when she was travelling back on the road past Havering Priory. She was literally overtaken by a period horse and carriage.
Really? Wow.
Now, she didn't read my book before, but then when she read it, she kind of came running to me and said, "Tom, I can't believe you've written about Havering Priory, and I've never told anyone about this." And she's a very down-to-earth lady, she takes no nonsense. And she really went into great detail of this horse and carriage. I mean, to the point where it had lanterns at the front and back. And she said it passed her overtaking, and then when she
She was driving.
Yeah. It kind of dissipated in front of her, so it kind of vaporized and went. That's the only way she could explain it, and it's literally the road. If you go over the bridge, you've got Havant Priory on the right hand side. You bend round, and you've got the road to Eckington.
Yeah.
That was the road she experienced it on. She'd never told anyone before in her life, but she was so thankful that she read my book, and she was like, "Oh, I'm not insane." Because obviously I've interviewed a lot of people who have experienced a lot of things around Havant Priory.
Do people experience the same things, or is it?
Yeah.
different?
I mean, there's a lot of people experiencing what they seem to think people holding lanterns in a distance at Havant. Now, whether that's to do with the monastery, could be connected, I don't know. But yeah, there's been several people seeing a period horse and carriage. Now, whether somebody owns a period horse and carriage who dresses up in period costume around that area, please do get in touch, because that would then eradicate that theory. But I doubt it very much.
If it dissipates as well.
Well, exactly. Now, whether the kind of the weather played a part in that, I don't know. Again, when people tell you about these experiences, they kind of lose parts of that information over time as well. So we've got to be careful of when people explaining experiences that they're probably maybe adding little bits into it, so it's kind of snowballed a little bit. Yeah. But again, there's no smoke without fire. She generally experienced something. So, but there's a multitude of different amazing places across Lincolnshire. There really is. But yeah, no, I think Havant for me, that's close by, and the Temple Brewer is definitely a must.
Yeah, I'd be up for either of those places. Dan, what do you reckon?
Yeah, I think I feel a ghost hunt coming on.
Yeah, I think so. I think we need to go and find the truth, don't we?
Let's do it.
I'm inspired.
Yeah, absolutely fascinating. I talk to you all day.
We could talk all night, really.
Yeah.
Oh, we could. We've just scratched the surface, gents. We really have.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you'll have to come back on the show. Like next year, let's book you in now.
Yeah, no, 100%. Yeah,
let's do this. Yeah. Okay, Brill.
How can people find you?
So I do have a Facebook page, Thomas Warrington, Seeker of Truth. If they want to pop on there's a lot of content. I used to do a lot of writing for the Supernatural magazine in London. So a lot of articles that I've written on there, the Most Haunted magazine as well. There's a lot of podcasts on there. There's a lot of information. So once you go down that rabbit hole, you may find yourself looking into it more. But again, the book's still out, available on Amazon, if they want to pick that up and delve into all things strange.
Brilliant. Well, Tom, thank you so much for joining us and chatting to us tonight. It's been fascinating.
It's been brilliant.
No,
thank you, Tom.
Thank you very much, gents, and it's been really enjoyable tonight. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, there we go. That was Tom Warrington, paranormal investigator. Please make sure to check out his book. It's a fascinating read. I've read it myself, so I speak with honesty on that. And it's a great time of year to be reading it.
Be sure to follow us on Facebook and Instagram, and we'll see you next month. Goodbye.
Cheerio.
Today's episode of Strong Links was brought to you by Danson Property Services, where quality work meets local care. From reliable maintenance jobs to property refurbs. Call Danson Property Services today. See you next time.